Hello and welcome to another episode of the Need to Succeed podcast. And on this podcast, what we do is bring on phenomenal entrepreneurs and just really understand what makes them tick. Because oftentimes what happens is two people can go through the exact same situation. One person decides because of the situation, they're going to go on to become wildly successful. And another person decides because of the exact same situation that they can no longer achieve the things that they want to achieve. The exact same situation, two different outcomes. Now, what is the mindset of the person that goes on to achieve success? That is exactly what we look to uncover on this podcast. And today we have an absolutely incredible guest. He is the director of Casito Properties. He is also the co-founder of Peak Performance Events. He is a multiple business owner. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Paul Stapleton.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for a lovely intro as well, bro.
Did you like that, yeah?
Yeah, I like that.
Bro, I kind of, you know what? I think I'm getting better at this stuff. That just kind of rolled off. It felt good.
Probably the 2 hours on voice notes last night practicing probably helped as well.
That's the one, man. That's the one. Honestly, Paul, like, it's such a pleasure to have you on, my friend. Such a pleasure. And I truly, especially the conversation we're just having just before we come on, I know the audience are going to get a huge amount of value from this. So I'm super excited.
Let's do it.
Now, we've got a tradition on here. The very, very first question, my friend, is, what does success actually mean to you?
Good question. Few answers. Firstly, doesn't involve money for me.
Interesting.
I think creating something that can be left as a legacy after you're gone. So whether that's a business or a product or a service, I think that's a huge thing for me that I would translate success being. Someone asked me the other day what my biggest success of last year was, and I set up 3 new projects last year. I expanded my property business, but the biggest thing for me was actually Aaron and I gaining a particular sponsorship for Peak Performance, which is someone that I've looked up to for the whole of my career and the whole of my journey to become an entrepreneur. And that was gaining sponsorship from a company that's co-owned with Lord Alan Sugar.
Wow.
And if I look back, that's probably like, forget any money involved, that to me is rubbing shoulders with someone who I put out there as one of the most serial businessmen and entrepreneurs in the country, in the world, having faith in a relatively new events company after 2 events to do a full year sponsorship with us. So success for me is many different things. Based on last year, forget the money that I earned, it was just achieving an association and a collaboration with someone of that size.
That is so incredible. And I don't know how many times I've said this now, but it's so important to just look at the journey, but not so much that. And a lot of people sat on that chair have said the same thing, which is just look at the inputs. Don't look at, what's going to be coming out at the end of it. Don't look at the output, all right? Look at the inputs, the little things that you're doing every single day. So the quality of those first 2 events that you guys have done is the exact reason why someone says, hey, I believe in these guys, not because I like the look at them, but like look at what they've done. It doesn't matter if it's just 2. If this is just the first 2, what's the next 5 going to look like? You know what? I want to be a part of that, right? It just comes down to the inputs, and ultimately the results you're looking for is going to come in the end, right? So yeah, massive congratulations to you guys.
Exactly.
Brilliant stuff. So what we love to do on here is just really get a good understanding of yourself, because, now you're talking some big names, Lord Sugar's business partner. I'm like, yo, who is this guy? What's going on, right? But we don't all start like that. Like you said, you were looking up to this person. All of a sudden, you're like, they're sponsoring. They believe in you. They're not looking at you going, wow, I respect this person enough to actually put my money where my mouth is, which is incredible. But there's always that journey, isn't there, to get to where you are today. And that's really what I like to uncover on here.
People only see the now. They don't see the 15 years prior, the graft, the ups, the downs, the making money, the losing money, the questionable times when you think, should I get a job? Is this right? They don't see that. They don't see how the entrepreneur journey affects family life and everything like that. So, yeah, I think more needs to be put out there, not just about how amazing life is and you're driving Lamborghinis and going to Dubai. I think what needs to be put out there is real information as to how you can do it, how it's achievable, and more importantly, that it's not as easy as everyone makes out.
Yeah.
And you've got to have strong minerals to see it through.
Yeah, no, I love that, and that is exactly what this podcast, is designed to do, right? So yeah, no, I love that. Everything you've said there just really, really resonates with me. So let's go into that. Let's look even beyond 15 years, because I feel there is. Now, we can always change, right? We can always, adapt and always become better versions of ourselves. And, certain events can happen that trigger something in our minds, and whoever we were before, all of a sudden, then changes to become this new, maybe improved, better versions of ourselves. But I still always feel that, you're formed really in your younger years, those formative years. And unless something drastic happens, that kind of builds who you are, as you get older and older and older. So can you remember the first time, maybe as a young child, maybe in school, wherever it is, that you had an event or something that just triggered in your mind that you feel has been really impactful into the person you've become today?
I think going back to secondary school, I remember when you'd have careers day and someone independent outside of the school would come in and you'd sit down and you'd put all your interests in a computer, and then it would generate the ideal job for you. And I remember
Bricklayer.
sitting there looking at it and thinking, and I can't remember what they were because I was so uninterested, but thinking none of these relate to what I ever want to do in life. And right now, I don't know what I want to do, but what I do know is I want to be successful, I want to earn money, and I want to own my own business. And from an early age, my dad bought a business. He ran a restaurant, which was really good. I worked from a young age, so I started working at the age of 14, and I would do shifts in the restaurant, graft in from the bottom, like pot washer, stuff like that. And just the guy that was just running about doing all the little bits, earning a bit of pocket money. I was working on market stalls, so in Southend and Dagenham and places like that from a young age, grafting for a full day to earn 30 quid, thinking, you know what, this is money, I love it. So from a young age, I realised hard work is what was needed. But then I also had the life lesson of my dad's business crumbling as well in front of me when I was around 17, 18. And that led to signs of depression, drinking, nearly losing the house and everything like that. So again, I think what I learned from that is obviously never have more than one income, never only have one income stream. You need to have more than one income stream. You can't be purely reliant on that one business to provide you for the rest of your life, because things will go wrong. Like, property right now, back end of last year, I lost £127,000 worth of commission through deals falling through because of down valuations, mortgage products getting pulled, the interest rates increasing. It's a huge amount of money for anyone to lose in a year, let alone in the last 3 months of last year. But because I have multiple businesses, it hurt me, but it didn't hurt me badly. It wasn't fatal. So I think from a young age, I learned multiple streams of income is something that is essential for a comfortable life.
Wow, incredible. Two things. The first one is, what an incredible lesson to be able to learn, at 13, just running around, in stores, doing the kind of thing you're talking about, saying, the entrepreneurial life, like seeing your dad do it, but you're also actually a part of that. You're working in it. So you're really learning what, we call apprenticeships these days. That is an apprenticeship, right? And you're learning all these different facets to business. You're probably hearing conversations, maybe your dad and, people who are maybe the people who are actually bringing in the goods and, talking about margins and, talking about stock and, all of it just sipping into your mind like one incredible apprenticeship.
Huge amount of transferable life skills were born from that time of my life. And forget it being in a restaurant, time management was huge. Multitasking was huge. And I think the biggest thing I got out of it was the ability to be able to conversate with people 2, 3, 4 times my age and hold a conversation. Someone at the age of 14 would struggle with that back then. Nowadays, I think there's a much bigger margin between kids being able to hold a conversation with their parents, let alone grandparents or anyone else like that. So for me, I got a huge amount of confidence out of it, good communication skills, brilliant problem solving skills. And as I said, time management, and they were all skills that are transferable as well. So that was the start of like the buzz for me of like starting to enjoy maybe like a sales role and being like a good people person as well.
What did you personally enjoy about that? Because another 30-year-old is just like, bro, I just want to be playing with my friends. Like, what's all
Yeah.
this?
So I grew up in quite a rough area in southeast London, and it wasn't always that safe to go out at that age and play. And I think it helped keep me grounded, because I've always said to my wife, if at some point we didn't move out of that area, my family didn't move from that area, it always makes me think back and think, where would I actually be today if I did play out and I wasn't working and we did stay in that area? Would I be the person that I am now? Probably not, because you're a reflection of your environment and the circles you keep and stuff like that. But I think the main thing is that I kind of always had this hunger that I wanted to be successful. Going out, playing out. I was never a guy that wanted to be sat on the computer and stuff like that. I was the guy that just wanted to earn money. And I would have nice clothes and stuff like that, because I would spend my money on nice things, and it would mean a lot more to me. I would look after it more than maybe if my parents bought it, because I'd earned it. And it was hard graft, getting up at 5 a.m, going to work on the market on a Saturday when all my friends were out, and coming home at like 6-7 o'clock at night. It was hard graft, but it made me realise the value of money from a very, very young age.
Incredible. And that leads me on to the next question, which is, when your dad goes through this, the loss of a business, which, a lot of people do kind of spiral when that happens. But was it something that he said to you that triggered you to think, okay, multiple streams of income? Was that something that he said? Do you remember being just consciously going, well, if there was another stream of income, like how did that come to form your mindset around income streams?
I think it was just my translation of what was going on, that it was kind of, you either had all or nothing. It was, if that business worked, it was good, and if it didn't work, you had nothing and you risked losing everything that you ever worked for. So for me, I think what I took away from that is I never want to be in a position where I'm reliant on one stream of income. And I think the biggest thing I never wanted to be in a position of was somebody else being in control of my income and being someone that was employed by somebody else who could make me redundant. They could decrease my hours or anything like that. I wanted to be in full control, and if anything ever went wrong, I only had myself to blame.
Was your dad your hero?
My dad's my hero to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I think picking up the book Rich Dad Poor Dad at a young age helps you realise that there's two different sides to things. I think what I took from my dad is, when there are things that are going wrong, don't bury your head in the sand. Look for solutions and talk to people. But talk to the right people, because sometimes the people closest to us aren't the best people for us to talk through problems with, because they're not in the same arena. So having like a good network, a good circle of people that are supportive, that when things are bad, you know that you can get the right advice from them and the right motivation as well. Like the amount of times on my journey of building businesses, that I've had multiple businesses that have failed in the past. Not everything's been a success, but that's just part of the journey, right? But so many times I've been advised by family and my wife and people around me, why don't you just stop now? Why don't you just go and work for someone and just not worry? At least your money's guaranteed. It's bullshit. Nothing's guaranteed. Your money is never guaranteed. Your business could go bust tomorrow. You could stop paying me. You could make me redundant. Somebody else could come along that's better than me and take my job. Like, nothing is guaranteed. What is guaranteed is that person has full control of my life, and I have zero flexibility in my life. And that's what I love about being a business owner. If I want to come and do a podcast today, I don't answer to anyone. I get my work done. I come here, we do the podcast. My business is on my phone. I'm off. I've got teams in place. I delegate my business out to people. So my business continues to run if I'm not there. But I learned from a young age that I'm probably unemployable based on my views of how I see the working environment.
Yeah, I heard that. Listening to you speak, I'm thinking, yep, this guy can't work for someone. And I get it.
I'd be a nightmare. I would be a nightmare.
Absolutely. But how did it make you feel seeing your dad go through that?
Oh, shit is the honest answer. It was awful to see it. It affected home life. It affected everything. And it affected my relationship with him massively.
In what way?
It was the stress, and you take it out on the people closest to you as well. And the fact is, I was with him all day, every day. So it was always taken out on me. But the best thing that ever happened was him losing that business, being able to retain the family home, and just him not having those pressures on his shoulder of money worries, people knocking on the door, debts, everything like that. Not every business can survive bad times. That one didn't. It was good when it was good, and it was really bad when it was bad. And it just got to a point where it couldn't run anymore. But our relationship is stronger than it's ever been. He's a happier person. He doesn't have the stress now. He works for someone else, and it's worked out fine for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't a nice thing to see, especially at a young age as well. Even like saying you're 17, 18, you're still technically a young adult, but it's still a hard thing to see.
100%. I mean, you probably felt you were a big man, but the older you get, you will realize, I was a kid. Like, it's weird how it works, right? When you're trying to explain that to a younger person, it's like, no, what are you talking about? But as you get older, you're like, mate, I literally didn't even have a clue what was going on.
Exactly.
But I completely get that. You mentioned mastermind. You didn't actually mention mastermind. That's just how I've quantified it in my head. But you spoke about, being around the right people, not asking the closest people to you, because I mean, in my experience, it's almost never the right answer, and it's not always from a negative place. Sometimes it can be, but oftentimes it's just from a place of this is all they know. Like you said, you're playing in two different fields.
And it's a place of love as well, because they love you and they don't want to see you hurt or anything like that.
100%, 100%. So how do you go about finding, those right people to be able to bounce ideas and ask the right questions to?
Networking. I think, again, from a young age, I was forced into going to college by my parents. They said, you've got to go to college. I gave it a go. I did it for 1 year. I think what I didn't like the most about college was the people I was around. People were there for the same reason. It's what life and society and families tell you to do. Go to college. For a lot of people, it was just, I'm doing what I'm told and I'm just going to mess about. They weren't worried about what they got out of it. And I just thought, you know what? There's easier ways of educating yourself, learning a craft, and you can earn money on the side. So I quit after the first year, and I decided to go and start my first business when I was 18. And what I decided I needed to do to expand that business was go to local networking events to meet business owners. And I was young. Look, I was 18 years old, but I looked about 15.
Mate, you look about 15 now, so I wonder what, what it was like then.
Yeah, it's that fountain of youth. But I looked really young, but the way I carried myself and the conversations and the way I spoke, people would listen and trust me. And I forged really good relationships with local businesses, and I'd offer them a service. And that was kind of the start of a journey that got me hooked to networking and just talking to people. The more people I spoke to, the more people that understood what I did, the more business I generated, because it might not directly be you who I do business with, but it could lead on to one of your friends because you've recommended my service. So networking from a young age was something that I was really passionate about.
Networking, it's actually a topic that I give keynote speeches on. So I'm very versed in this area. What would you say is something, because from what you've just said there, I'm guessing, and obviously kind of knowing you, I'm actually coming to one of your events next week as well.
Sponsoring?
Yeah, I'm sponsoring.
Yeah.
I was trying to be humble.
Plug.
So yeah, I know you're big into networking. So what would you say is the right way to network?
I think be open and put yourself in uncomfortable positions and in rooms that you feel uncomfortable in. So I learned very quickly that by trying to expand my property business and only going to property events was the wrong way to do it, because typically you probably go to the same events I've been to. You either see the same people every single time and it almost becomes a bit of a social, or you're in a room with your competition because you're all there searching for that unicorn. You're all there searching for that landlord, that developer, that investor. And because you're all in competition, you're all competing for that same business, fees go down, service levels go down to appease what that investor wants because he's now in demand. And I realised, you know what, go into the rooms that are completely off topic. Because for me, anybody could be my ideal client. They don't have to be a property investor. They could just be an investor, or not even an investor yet. They could be somebody with money but has never thought of investing it. So I started going to any event I could: business events, marketing events, entrepreneur events, local events, financial advisors, solicitors. And I built some of the strongest relationships that I still hold 5 years later and do the most business with from networking outside of my field. So one thing I'd say is network outside of your field, because I think you work backwards. You look at, who's my ideal client? Where would they go? How would I find them? What would they read? What would they look at? What would they respond to? What are their pain points? And you work backwards. And then when you work backwards, you then map out the areas that they would go. Where would they work? What tabloids are they reading? What are they looking at on social media? There's so much content out there that can help you with that. But it all starts from projecting yourself further down the line and then mapping it backwards and then working those steps out to reach your goal.
Brilliant. Yeah, Russell Brunson calls it the Dream 100.
Yeah.
Right, like who's your Dream 100? Where are they hanging out? You know, what other groups have actually got them congregated in the same place, and then you can go into the spaces. 100%, mate. I was at a networking event yesterday and I did it live, and I just had to do the live afterwards because it was so impactful and it was so crazy and it was so left field in terms of the environment I would normally be in. But I was literally the only person doing what I do in that room. But I didn't even sell what I did in that room.
That makes you more interesting because they're not listening to the same rubbish that everyone else is splurting. So you're the person that people are interested to talk to because it's very different. And when you go branded up as well, people are interested to know what your logo is, what the name is, what you do, stuff like that. So I think it's trial and error, and it's experimenting, and it's through experience that you realise, like, I had a call yesterday, so I do mentorship as well. One of the first things I tell anyone, regardless of it being property or whatever else, is you need to get yourself out there as a person that people would want to approach. And if you're going to networking events, don't just turn up because you've gone out somewhere and then you go there after. Like, take note of what happened in the events the previous time. What were people wearing? What kind of people were there? So that you can tailor your approach to the actual demographic that are there. So, for instance, Aaron and I are going to an influencer event tonight. Ordinarily, any event we go to, we would go branded up, peak performance branding. But from doing our research on the event, everyone's dressed to the nines. They're all in smart suits, or they're in jeans, or the women are in dresses. It's a smart environment, and it's a buzzing, vibrant environment in the middle of Canary Wharf. So our approach is going to be very different to if we were going to one of our friends' networking events and would go a lot more casual. So I think it's like the guy that turns up at a party and didn't realise it was fancy dress. Do you know what I mean? Or the kid that turns up at school and didn't know it was own clothes day. Like, you need to be prepared for whatever meeting or event you're stepping into.
Brilliant. I just had to go a little bit left there because I know for people watching this, it's also about, okay, cool, that journey entrepreneur. So, and I know I always say networking is the lifeblood of any business, right? So I just know that was a key part. So I had to home in on that. Let's kind of get back to, your dad loses his business. It's kind of spiraled a little bit. Now you're 17. That's your job, right? So like, what you've lost your job. So what are you doing now?
So I went to college. I started studying graphic design and art. I was really passionate about graphic design. And I decided, you know what, I'm just going to start a graphic design business and service the local community first. So I would work with shops and businesses, and I would do any graphic design that they would need. And it was enough for a young kid at that point. But I quickly realised after a year of doing that it was never going to pave the way for what I wanted in life. Like, the money just wasn't there. And
you had to do the designs, right?
Yeah, I was designing, I was running about, and you know what? It served the purpose. And again, that's a transferable skill that's rolled into business today. So that creativity helps with the posts that we do, helps with the way we lay things out. It helps with everything,
Branding.
like the event branding, everything. We pay for that now, but in the early days when you don't have much capital to start up a business, that was a huge saving in order to just start and look professional. So I set up that business and it did okay, and I was really missing the sales environment, and I knew I wanted to be involved in sales. So I went out and I studied sales. I studied personal development. I went on a few courses. I went on a 2-day course with Jordan Belfort, which was really, really good.
Wow. You flew to America for that?
No. Came to the UK.
Oh, nice.
So it was at the Excel, and it was all about straight line persuasion and stuff like that. And I always say I took 20% away from that. The other 80% was just not my style. It was a bit more bullish, and there was a lot of bragging about what had happened in the past and stuff like that. But the 20% I took away, I still use in my business today. They're just natural skills that I adopted back then, and I don't even know that I'm doing it now. It's just become part of who I am. And I went in as a consultancy role, so I was a sales consultant, and I did that for 2 years before becoming a sales trainer. Set up a sales company called Sales Training Made Simple, and then I realised I just really wanted to get involved in property. So that was about 10 years ago. Decided property was for me. Knew I did not want to be an estate agent or a letting agent. I could not think of anything worse.
Bloody hell, mate, calm down. That was my route.
For me, I just knew that I dealt with public in the past at the restaurant. I enjoyed that side of it, but the estate agency, letting agency side, it wasn't going to be for me, and it involved working for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the gym, and I just heard on the radio an advert saying, "Make money from property with other people's money," and I was like, "That's interesting." So I watched a couple of videos. Realized, okay, this looks like something that I want to get involved in. And then law of attraction happens, and you see someone you haven't seen for years. 2 days after, they're running a property sourcing business on a huge scale, 75 staff in my local area. And I was just like, this sounds good. And he said, do you want to come on as a consultant, a sales consultant, to train the sourcing team? I was like, cool. Did that. I said, I'll do that if you teach me the property side. We ended up setting a business up together, and then we parted ways 3 years ago, and I set Casita up, and that's kind of the journey. But it's been the self-education journey. I've learned everything on the way from people that are doing it, as opposed to it being in that classroom setting.
Wow, that's incredible. There was one thing that you kind of touched on, which was the graphic design thing. Mm-hmm. And it's just one of those things where, like you said, it's kind of stayed with you. Like, now you guys can afford to pay for branding, and that's cool. But I always say this, even if you can afford to pay for something, having a base knowledge of exactly what that thing is just means the end product is going to be far, far greater, because you can give whoever that professional is some guidelines. Here's what I want it to look like. Here's what you can do. You can even talk, not the same level of technicalities with them, but you can talk enough technicalities to give them a pinpoint example of exactly what you're looking for, right?
Yeah. And that goes for the podcast and any filming we do as well. Like, Aaron and I having the creativity and the ability to give a detailed brief prior to recording, as opposed to people doing a recording and then going on and saying, so this is what I want it to be. And you may have not captured everything that they would need. So when we're recording, there are multiple calls before an event or a podcast or anything with our videographers to basically say, this is the vision of it, this is what we need. And then our videographer is time-stamping the things that she knows that we need, or he knows that we need, in order to create our vision into an actual product at the end. And yeah, look, we could do it ourselves, but it's £1 per hour, and we know what our time's worth. So I think another thing I've learned is the importance of delegation at an early stage. You can't do everything. Can't do everything in a business. And I did that in my property business for the first year. And very quickly I realized I need to employ people. and I rapidly expanded. I expanded to like 14 people across 2 offices, and I had my time back in order to go out doing things that actually made money instead of being bogged down with the admin side and the sales progression side and all of the stuff that someone who can go out and win business should not be doing. So delegation, something that I'm massively sort of passionate about pushing out to people that they should look into.
It's super, super important, but there's that juxtaposition of, okay, I need to delegate, but I'm a lean, mean, new starting machine. Don't know where that came from, but essentially you're a new business, right? So you've got to be really lean, and you've really got to watch, the pennies and the pounds. So how do you do that while also leveraging? Because I agree with what you're saying, but how do you balance off those two situations?
So you don't have to get someone full time. I mean, like, there's so many VAs out there. You've got platforms like Fiverr where you can employ people to do a job. Like, you don't need someone in-house all the time as a videographer. You don't need someone in-house full-time as admin. But it's all about getting maximum service for your money. So we've got a VA for peak performance. Now, we won't ad hoc give her, can you send this email? Can you do this? We get charged per hour. So we will build in what we think can be done within an hour. And if it rolls over, it rolls over. But we'll send her 20, 30 tasks. So she does it in that time and it's condensed. She will book out a solid hour for us and she will do all of our tasks. Whereas if it's like an email here, an email there, it is quite disjointed. So I think if you haven't got a big budget, there's VAs out there that are very cheap. I think we pay like £25 an hour. It's nothing. But you've also got to look at the bigger picture, the pound per hour here. Like, how long is it going to take you to do that task in comparison to someone who does that as a job? And then you need to look at what can you do within that time. So effectively, you're buying your time back. So for Aaron and I, we had a ton of tickets that we had to issue manually. It's not worth my time looking at a spreadsheet and issuing those tickets. It will take me an hour. So to buy my time back for £25 for that hour, what can I do in that hour that's going to make me that £25? Well, a hell of a lot. I'll make that £25 back tenfold, 20-fold, 50-fold in my everyday business. So I think it's just looking at the bigger picture that if you invest that time, if you invest that money to get your time back, what can be done to justify it? And I think in the early days, I didn't think that way. And I spent 3 months sourcing properties. Then I spent the next 3 months selling properties. And then I spent the next 6 months progressing those properties through to completion. And I earned a really tidy sum in my first year, which was great. It exceeded 100 grand in commissions, which is amazing. But when I sat back that year, I just thought, really, I've only worked 3 months. Because if I had somebody there selling the deals for me, if I had someone there progressing the deals, whatever I did in that first 3 months, if I did that every quarter, I would have quadrupled my turnover. So I ended up taking the whole summer off that year, spent lots of time with the kids, and I just planned and brainstormed on how I was going to take the business to the next level. I invested £10,000 in a branding company to come and rebrand my whole company to fall in line with my vision, new website, everything like that. Come September, kids went back to school and it was game time, and I blew up my business. It was amazing. And a lot of people will question spending that amount of money on branding, but for me, it was one of the biggest learning experience. And I thought I knew about branding, but coming from a proper company, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, your branding is good, mate. It looks very clean. It's nice. Yeah, it's nice. Okay, cool. Like, why did you place so much value on sales?
Well, sales is the like heartbeat of the world. Like, everything is a sale, isn't it? Like, you asking me to come on the podcast and me saying no, I've sold you a reason that I shouldn't come on your podcast. You then selling me a reason why I should come on the podcast, and me sitting here means you've sold me. So whatever you do, a sale doesn't have to be an exchange of money. Like, everything is a sale. That's how you have to look at it. And it's the foundation of any successful business is sales. I don't care whether it's a product, a service, whatever it is, an event, sales are at the forefront of everything. And once you understand sales, you don't just use it in your business, you use it in every aspect of your life as well. And I've been through a point where I studied sales for 5 years. As I said, I learned from some of the best, questionable. Jordan Belfort, amazing salesman, probably didn't use it in the right way. But when you use those sales skills non-stop, they become natural. You don't realize you're doing it anymore. The amount of times that I've been pulled up by my wife because she's heard me learning it, and then she now hears me using it on her and the children and other family members. She's like, I know what you did there. And you're like, didn't even know I'm doing it, but I'm using it in everyday life now, whether it's going into a shop and getting a discount, or sometimes I used to use it on my friends. If I wanted to go somewhere that strongly and they didn't, I'd use my sales skills to manipulate the situation. And you can have fun with it as well. But for me, sales is at the forefront of everything. And I think I've been successful in my property business because I had the foundation of sales first before I had the knowledge of property. And I think some people go for property knowledge first, and you can sell on knowledge. But the problem is, when you're too knowledgeable, you're quite boring. You give away too many facts and figures, and you end up talking yourself out of deals. If you understand sales, you'll realize that it's not about you speaking for 80% of a pitch. You spend 20% of the time talking, and the only things you talk about are asking skillful questions and being a good listener, and let the person tell you how to be sold to. So I think foundation of sales for me is something that everybody should study.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You know, sales is, well, you can't have a business. If you want to become an entrepreneur and you can't sell, you can either go and hire salespeople to do that for you, but you really need to understand sales, and you need to understand salespeople.
Yeah.
If you're
you know what? If you're hiring good salespeople, they're going to sell to you.
Exactly.
And if you're not aware of the techniques that they're using,
absolutely,
you're going to be that guy who just gets taken advantage of. I've been on many courses, and I won't say whose courses they are, and I've just gone on them out of interest to see what goes on. And so many times I'm not even listening to the content they're putting out, because I'm subconsciously sitting there listening like, this is a tee up to them doing
Something's
a pitch
coming.
now. Something's coming. And I'm sitting there, but I'm seeing everyone else like leaning forwards and their jaws are dropping and they're like engrossed in what this person's saying. And I'm thinking, in a minute, you're all going to get up and you're going to walk to the back of the room and you're going to take out finance or your credit card. But I can hear it because I've studied it, which for me is essential, because I'll never be that mug who falls for BS. So again, I think it's something everyone should study, regardless of what industry you want to go into. It could be insurance, it could be recruitment. You have to know sales.
100%. I just kind of going back a little bit to your encounter with your friend, and I love, you know, the way you said, you know, the universe just attracting, law of attraction, bringing things in. It's so weird that it literally happened to me this morning. But just kind of going back to that, 2 days later, you heard this thing on the radio, property. You're like, wow, I want to get into property. 2 days later, you meet your friend who's running a huge, you know, property business.
Yeah.
You know, how did you, well, we're just kind of transitioning from sales.
Yeah.
So I guess there's probably going to be some element of sales involved in this answer. But how did you manage to, you know, get him, who's already running a big business, to actually now start something with you? Because he already had something going.
Yeah. I think just before I answer that, I think the whole coincidence of meeting as well, I was big on goal setting back then. I was big in your inner talk, law of attraction. You put things out there. And the more you write something down, the more it's in your brain. And I learned about this thing called your RAS, your reticular activating system, which is obviously at the back of your head. And it's what allows you to focus on certain things at any given time. And I think where I was so focused on it, I was seeing opportunities that would always be there, but because I wasn't looking for them, I would miss out. It's kind of like when you get a new car, and you order that car and you think, right, I'm going to get that car in white with the black wheels because I've not seen it. And then all of a sudden, that 2-month period while you're waiting for that car to be delivered, all you see are white cars with black rims. And you're like, oh my God, they're as common as anything. The thing is, they've always been there. And they've been on that journey from home to school to work. But because you weren't looking for them, you never saw them. And that was the thing. Because I was there writing it down every day, what I wanted to do, who I needed to meet, how I was going to do it, it was just at the forefront of my brain. And I realised that like I'd just get out there, talk to people. We bumped into each other in the high street. He said what he was doing. I said what I was doing. And he said, you know what? My guys are really good at finding deals, but they can just never get them over the line. And I said to him, look, I'm training various companies, whether they're estate agencies or they're brokerages or they're investment consultants. Like, why don't I just come in? I'll give you a free hour. Let's just see how it goes. So I went in for the free hour, which turned into 4. And the guy, I said, look, I've got another meeting, but let's talk tomorrow. And my phone blew up from him that night because he just said, the guys have not stopped talking about it. They've got the buzz. Let's talk about something more permanent. And that's how it led to it. And for me, it's like anything you do. It's like you've had the conversation with Aaron as well. It's proof of concept. Mm-hmm. So many people are the whole, what's in it for me? Like, if I do this for you, what do I get? And they're always asking expectantly. So like you'll probably have many people on the podcast. They might be asking, are you going to pay me? Mm-hmm. You've not seen the value, or what do I get? How far do you push it? But in reality, it doesn't work like that. You have to give for people to see the value in what you do. And then in return, what you get is people's gratitude. Mm-hmm. And that turns into business. But so many people will give, ask, or ask, give. For me, it was always proof of concept to a certain extent. You're not going to give away too much, but you want to give them that taster where they can see the value in what you do, and then they want to buy your service. And that's what happened. I was happy to go in. I saw the bigger picture. There were 12 staff there. I knew it would be a big job. We did the training. They loved it. I got them hooked. And we turned that business into a really strong business. But it was a huge business, probably one of the biggest property sourcing businesses I've ever been around. That's how it started.
Wow, incredible. Such an amazing lesson there. And this is something I always say as well. There is a direct correlation between the amount of value you give and the amount of people you give that value to in return for how much money you actually earn. Because people always focus on the money, once again, the output. If you just focus on the input, if you're saying, okay, where do I really want to get to? And okay, well, this is the sort of people that I need. How do I get that person's attention? That person does not need me. So how do I get their attention? Well, I know what I'm offering is hugely valuable. Why don't I just show that to them? Why don't I just give them that value, and then it's up to them to make a decision after that?
The thing is, if you're constantly that person that's out there pitching, it comes across as desperation. And a sale is just a transfer of enthusiasm. So if I'm not enthusiastic about the product, service that I'm selling, how the hell am I expecting you to be enthusiastic about it? So for me, you have to enjoy what you do, and you have to show you enjoy what you do, and that you enjoy helping people, and that you enjoy selling your product, you enjoy selling your service. And in return, people will buy into that. And I'm not saying, look, there's plenty of people out there that they put on the smile, then when they go through that door, they shut it, and they're just like, God, I hated that. There's lots of people out there like that. But I genuinely have a passion for sales. I have a passion for property. And more recently, since becoming a mentor, I have a big passion of people being taught business and property in the right way, in the most realistic way, and not being sold the dream of becoming financially free in six weeks.
Yeah.
Because it's not possible.
No.
I don't care what anyone says, it's not possible. And what is financial freedom? Like, a lot of people go, I've got my first rent to rent, I'm getting £1,500 a month, I'm financially free.
No.
Seriously, what kind of a life is that if you're financially free at £1,500 a month? Like, have bigger aspirations. If all of a sudden 3 people moved out of that rent to rent tomorrow, you're financially free? You're not.
Back in the race. And the other one is passive income.
Yeah.
Passive income. And passive income is absolutely possible. But the reality is the people selling this passive income are the people who have gone through the journey where they were actively working in the businesses, got to a position where they're not able to systemize and allow the income to become passive. Of course, passive income is possible. Yeah. But you're selling passive income to someone who's in a job, they want to leave their job, they want to generate enough income to be able to actually leave their job and start doing something else. Well, you're going to have active income. You're going to have to do something that you're in because you don't have
Yeah.
the luxuries or the flexibilities right now to make it passive. So you got to be active first and then pray and hope that one day I swap this job that I don't like for this job that I actually enjoy doing and is bringing enough money. And hopefully one day I can systemize it enough to actually allow it to become passive, right?
Yeah.
But to think you can get passive income, from leaving your job is just crazy, right?
Look, I've got 4 businesses. I'm by no means passive because everything that I do is what I call lumpy money. So like property sourcing is not passive. It's lumpy money. You may have 20 deals in the pipeline, but you could have 3 months where no deals come in, and then 10 deals drop in 1 month, and you get a lump in, and it's all about managing your money. So I haven't gone down the route of passive money yet. I will do, but for me, it's about building that honey pot that when I do go down that route, I have enough money to have lots of options. Like rent for me, it didn't fit with my philosophy and what I wanted to do. So I didn't go down the route of rent to rent. Buy to let right now, it's not attractive for me. For me to stick 30 grand into a 100 grand property and net, 200-300 quid a month after everything comes out. I know what I could do in 1 year through assisted sales with 30 grand. I can make 30 grand into 90. So I have a target amount. You could call it the retirement amount. That's not to say I'll retire, but it's to build the retirement pot that when it gets to that, that's when I'll start investing, because then that would provide the magic figure of £10,000 passive income per month.
To blanket.
But I will never get to 10 grand passive income per month by earning £250 a month off of 30 grand investments. But I will if I get it to X amount of hundreds of thousands of pounds and then invest it. I will then have 10 grand income like that.
Yeah.
But I'll never get to that amount of money by just investing 30 grand at a time and netting 200.
This is why I love doing this, because you've just given a real life, realistic example of how to get to that passive income. So you're saying I've got 4 businesses, and your businesses are doing well, but this is active, and the goal is to build it up to a position where it becomes passive, and that's great, and that is possible, and I have no doubt you're going to achieve that. But it's just this whole fanciful, ideas of, you can quit your job tomorrow and you can start making passive income. How does that sound? It's like, maybe in 5, 6, 7 years. Like, it's not going to be tomorrow, mate.
People have short-term views. They want to be passive now and live this luxury lifestyle. For me, I want to be passive in 5, 10 years' time when I'm a bit older and I don't have the energy levels that I have now. I have the energy levels now to build, graft. So while I'm still young, and Aaron will laugh at that, but while I'm still young, I just want to graft. And the thing is, all the time you're enjoying something that you're doing, why would you ever want to stop doing that when you reach a certain level of money? For me, I enjoy the process, and I get bored when I get to a top level of something, and that's why I'm always setting up new ventures, because that's what I love. I love the journey of it. Whatever I make on the way, whatever relationships I build is great, but it's that journey of starting something with an idea in a boardroom on a whiteboard and then materializing that into a real business or a real product or a real service, and then expanding it. That for me is the real benefit of what I do. Yeah.
Brilliant. So why deal sourcing?
Deal sourcing for me, I call it deal sourcing, but I basically have sales. Again, I keep relating back to sales, but sales is all about finding the pain point of your client and offering a service that benefits them, that's a solution. And like I said to you, I didn't want to get into a estate agency and lettings, and without bad mouthing them, I saw a pain point. And the pain point in estate agency was you've got a homeowner occupied house and you've got a buy to let tenanted house. Now, both have different motivations behind them for selling. Homeowner occupied house, if you're selling your house, you want the best possible price. You want the most people having their eyes on it. So you're open and accommodating to have 20 viewings or 2 open days a week or whatever it might be. You'll do whatever you can because you want the most money out of it to go on to better your life, to buy a bigger and better house. But on a buy-to-let that's tenanted, the vendor wants to sell it. He wants to sell it quick. But the tenant is worried. The tenant's worried that they're going to get kicked out. They're worried about who the new landlord is and what they're going to be like. They're also worried that on completion their rent's going to be chucked up in the air. So for me, that was a kind of pain point that I saw, that estate agents, whenever you call up and you say, can you tell me the buy-to-let on 123 London Road, is that still available? They go, yeah, do you want to book a viewing? And that's all I ever got. I was never qualified. I was never asked if I had any questions. It was book a viewing, book a viewing, book a viewing. And as a tenant who's already a bit shaky on what's going on, after the first 3 or 4 viewings, that's when the phone stops being picked up, the door's shut, and in some instances, they stop paying. So it was working out a solution to that particular problem. And the solution was, what is the benefit of a tenanted buy-to-let? Because everyone, they don't like tenanted buy-to-lets for some reason, but it's all in the mindset. I look at a tenanted buy-to-let as buying an existing business with a track record. I know that it's a mum and a dad who work in a school and a hospital with 2 young children, and they have a dog. Yes, they're paying £50 below the market rent, but they've been there for 5 years. They've decorated it themselves. They've never missed a payment. Or do I buy a vacant property and put someone in at market rent, an extra £50? They pass a credit check, but realistically, do we know them? Do we know that they're going to pay on time? Do we know they're not going to be a problem? And I saw it as a perfect opportunity to have a really nice product wrapped in a bow that you can say, this is what you're getting from day one. And then it was working out who would buy that product. So I built my business around a pain point and offering a service that people would be attracted to through bad experiences with estate agents. Now niche me to be the go-to guy that people know that if they've got a property that's tenanted and they want to sell it off market, they want to sell it discreetly, they don't want to piss the tenant off, that's the service that we can provide. And not only to landlords, but more and more estate agents are now coming to us because they don't want the hassle of it. They don't want to sell that product. So they still get their commission, but we sell it to our investors. So that's really, for me, that is something that people really need to look at when setting a business up. What is the pain point and what is your solution?
That's brilliant. So essentially, you've actually been able to create what a lot of people is just a commodity, deal sourcing. You've actually been able to create a product that you've become known for. You've branded that product, and now you're the go-to person, for that actual product, right?
Yeah.
Mate.
Yeah, don't worry, cancel collection, please. Yeah, thank you, mate. Thank you. All right.
Tell them not to ever call you again.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And we had
Hold on.
Sorry, apologize. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, yeah, you're good.
Cool. Yeah, it's exactly what we've created. And we had a very good friend of ours, Steve Hamilton. Don't know if you know him on the podcast.
Follow him, yeah.
And one thing that he said, which really sticks with me, is a lot of people throw out the term entrepreneur, and that's on everything. That's on their socials and that. But what is the definition of an entrepreneur? Most people are just business owners, but an entrepreneur is someone that sees a problem in their industry, and they create a service or a product to combat that. And that goes back to exactly what I was just saying, is that you find a pain point and then you create a product or a service that combats that. So that really stuck with me from that podcast in particular, is the fact that many people think they're entrepreneurs, but what they really are is they're just business owners. An entrepreneur is something creating something innovative and something that nobody else has thought of, because there is a true problem there, but they've created that solution.
I love that. I actually love that distinction between both, because I haven't. It's not something that I've thought of before, but as soon as you explain that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I get exactly where you're coming from. Just a quick one to touch on. You've had a business partner, and you guys it was a long term, and then you've now kind of split up. What advice would you give someone who's potentially looking to get into a partnership? Now, and look, things can happen, right? For whatever reason, things could be perfect at the start, and then it doesn't work out. But based on that experience, because you're probably thinking, well, actually, I could have probably noticed that at the start if I'd asked the right questions. So, what are those things that you would advise someone to look out for when choosing a partner?
So I've had 2 business partners, and both of them have been older than me, and both of them have been people that I've learnt from. So I think the problem there is it's good to have a mentor, but I think a mentor needs to be independent of a business. I think when you go into business with someone that feels they're more valuable than you, that's when it's like that. It's never there. So I think someone like Aaron and I, for instance, we gelled and we work really well together because we're both here and we're both coming up at the same time. And there is no ego involved. He hasn't done what I want to do and I haven't done what he wants to do. We're on this journey together. We're learning and everything like that. A lot of people make the mistake that Aaron and I went to school together and stuff like that. I've not even known Aaron a year yet. It'll be a year next month that we started the podcast together.
Are you getting married?
No, but we are going to celebrate the anniversary. But we gelled and it works because we're both here. We're both together. Neither of us think we're more important. Well, he might do if he's following now. But neither of us feel like we're more important or better at something than each other. And I think the other thing is we both do and both have different strengths. So we both wear different hats within the business. Aaron knows what Aaron's good at. I know what I'm good at. And they're completely different things. And anything outside of that, we then delegate and put out to people that are experts in that. So we both stay in our lane. And I think that is the vital thing, is that you need to know what lane you're in, stick to it, don't get involved in the other person's one, and just both be humble with each other. Don't let egos get in the way.
Wow, that's beautiful, man. That's amazing. And it's really, really good advice. Really good advice as well, because, yeah, it's difficult to turn down that opportunity, like you said, when there's this kind of mentor figure, perhaps even financially, there's a little bit of stability and you're coming in, you've got your own values, but you're also clearly, you're hungry, you're ambitious, you've got things that you want to achieve. And it gets to a point where you're seeing the business and you're going, well, actually, like, we can definitely improve here. We should be doing things different. They're going, what are you talking about, mate? I've taught you. This is how it works. You go, no. It doesn't work like, it shouldn't work that way. And then ultimately that crash kind of comes. But if you're both coming up together, growing together, everyone is both on the same kind of level like that, then there's a different... It's
exciting as well, because you're both on that journey. Someone hasn't been there, done it already. So you're on that journey together through the good and the bad. Look, we speak 2-3 times a day, Aaron and I, but not every call is a good call. Some calls are one of us is going through something and we're there to help each other. So I think you need to do a lot of research into the person that you're going to work with. But look, there's nothing wrong with doing it on your own if you've got a good supporting circle around you. But I definitely think if you can work alongside a mentor, then it's like an apprenticeship, like you said. But to work in a business with a mentor, for me, from experience, it didn't work twice. Yeah. I wouldn't do it again.
Enough. Cool. Makes sense. And yeah, 100% I agree with, like, mentors it's just, I don't believe in shortcuts because you still got to do the work, but it just kind of shortens that journey. It just makes that that you're on the right track, so you can really give it 110%.
Yeah. Because
okay, this is the right track because this is someone who's done it already and they're advising me of what to do. Awesome, man. Bro, this has been so good.
Yeah,
a lot of nuggets, mate. A lot of nuggets, and I was kind of anticipating
a lot of viral videos.
Yeah. Mate, it's so weird. You never know what's going to go viral. And, Aaron was saying to me, he goes, oh, mate, I bet after that viral clip you've had, you're literally watching every video. I'm like, I am, but nothing's happening. Right? It's just one of those things. You don't, even that one that went viral, it was just like any other video that I put out. The market decides, the market decides. Just like when I went on BBC, I was on Question Time, and I had this clip actually get posted by the BBC, but it was pretty much talking about Elon Musk, and they would go, he's looking to buy Twitter. What do you think? This is crazy. We shouldn't let him. I'm like, let the market decide. Is Twitter going to survive? Is it not going to survive? It doesn't matter. When a capitalist system, let the market decide. So that's the same energy. I'm gonna keep that same energy with any viral clips. But honestly, it's been really, really good, my friend.
I've enjoyed it.
I'm glad. We've got a tradition. There is one final question because you guys have smashed it, and there's a couple of things that I even learned about you which I didn't know previously as well. And just watching you guys from afar, I mean, I was joking with you, was sending messages the other day, and I was just getting, mate, like, just leave some room for some of us as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, just crushing it. Yeah. But you just going like this and like this and like this. So, like, with everything that you've achieved so far, like what remains? What is now your need to succeed?
So my biggest drive is to succeed for my children. I've got 2 little girls, and we live in difficult times now. And I look back to the environment we would have grown up in to what the environment is today, and I think, bloody hell, like this generation, they have no chance of getting on the property ladder. Jobs are tough, and just social media pressures are just on them all the time, and you've got kids that are depressed and committing suicide like it's awful. So my biggest need to succeed now is to just make sure that my kids have the best possible start in life. We spoke off air, but I made the conscious decision last month to move my kids into private education from state education. It falls in line with my values and what I would have wanted when I was at school. And just seeing the difference in just as little as a month with my 6-year-old is incredible. So
Wow.
that's a 12-year commitment, and it's not cheap. But that's my need to succeed right now. Look, in a few years' time, maybe when you become accustomed to those school fees, I'll then have a new purpose that I'll go on to. But today, right now, my need to succeed is my little girls, man.
Paul Stapleton, thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you, mate.